Have you ever had a moment where someone said something to you that felt off, but you could not explain why? Maybe they made you feel guilty for something you did not do, or they changed your mind without you realizing it, or they made you question your own memory, or somehow you walked away feeling smaller, weaker, or more dependent on them, but you could not pinpoint what actually happened. If you have ever felt this, even once, there is a chance you have experienced dark psychology without realizing it. Dark psychology is not magic. It is not mind control. It is not dramatic or loud. In fact, it is the opposite. It is subtle. It is calm. It is quiet. And because of that, it is incredibly effective. Most people picture manipulation as obvious or aggressive. But the reality is that the most powerful tricks are the ones that feel normal. The ones that feel harmless. The ones that feel like nothing at all until you notice the changes in yourself. Today I am going to take you into the hidden world of dark psychology. I am going to show you the tactics people use every day that shape your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. Some of these tactics are used by toxic partners. Some are used by coworkers. Some are used by friends. And some are used by people who do not even realize they are using them. Because once you learn the patterns, you realize these tricks are everywhere. Let's begin with one of the oldest psychological tactics in the world. Something called the foot in the door technique. It is simple. It works like this. A person starts with a tiny request. Something so small that you barely think about it. Maybe they ask for a small favor. Maybe they need you to cover something for them. Maybe they need a tiny bit of your time. And you say yes, because it feels harmless. But that yes changes something inside you. Your brain begins to see yourself as someone who helps them. So the next time they ask for something slightly bigger, you say yes again. And slowly, without realizing it, your boundaries begin to shift. Before you know it, you are doing things you never would have agreed to if they asked you right away. Dark psychology often begins like this. Not with a command, not with pressure, but with a tiny request that opens the door to bigger influence. Most manipulators do not push. They let you walk into the trap willingly. You say yes again and again because every request feels like the natural next step. Now let's talk about one of the most subtle and damaging forms of dark psychology. Gaslighting. And I do not mean the loud, obvious kind where someone calls you crazy. I am talking about the soft version. The kind that feels almost gentle. The kind wrapped in concern. The kind that feels like caring but slowly disconnects you from your own perception of reality. Imagine someone making a comment like, "Are you sure that is what happened? I think you misremembered it." Or, "You are too sensitive. That is why it feels like a big deal." Or, "I am only telling you this for your own good." These little statements create doubt, and doubt is the seat of control. Once you begin to question your own judgment, you start relying on theirs. And that is exactly the goal. Gaslighting works best when the manipulator appears calm and caring. When they phrase their distortions as advice or concern. Over time, you stop trusting your own emotions. You stop trusting your memory. You begin to shrink into their version of events. And when someone controls your version of reality, they control you. Another dark psychology tactic is something that keeps people hooked for years. I call it the push and pull cycle. You may know it as intermittent reinforcement. It is the combination of affection and withdrawal. One moment, they give you attention, validation, or kindness. The next moment they disappear, te pulawai, or they become cold. This creates a powerful emotional addiction. When someone treats you warmly, your brain releases dopamine. You feel connected. You feel wanted. And then, when they withdraw, your brain panics. It wants that emotional high again. So you chase them. You try harder. You invest more. The manipulator knows exactly what they are doing. They do not offer stable affection. They offer unpredictable affection. And unpredictable affection is the strongest reinforcement method ever discovered in human psychology. Casinos use it. Social media uses it. Toxic people use it. If someone gives you attention only sometimes, but not always, your brain becomes hooked on trying to get the reward again. And that emotional slot machine can trap people for months or years. Next, let's talk about guilt. Guilt is one of the easiest emotions to manipulate because it is tied directly to your sense of responsibility. A skilled manipulator uses guilt as a hook. They twist situations so that everything becomes your fault. They turn their own mistakes into your mistakes. They make you feel responsible for their moods, their reactions, or their failures. For example, you might set a boundary, and instead of respecting it, they say something like, "I guess you really do not care about me," or "I cannot believe you would do this to me after everything I have done for you." Their goal is simple: make you feel like you owe them something. And once you feel emotionally indebted, they can get you to do almost anything. Another tactic is something I call confidence extraction. It is when someone slowly drains your self-esteem so that you become easier to control. They do not do it all at once. They do it piece by piece. They make small jokes about your insecurities. They compare you to others in ways that make you feel inadequate. They point out your flaws under the disguise of helping you improve. Over time, these tiny cuts wear you down. You start doubting yourself. You become more dependent on them for validation, because they are the one who keeps taking it away. A person with low self-esteem is much easier to manipulate because they begin to believe they cannot do better or deserve better. Now let's talk about another tactic that is incredibly common: the false hero act. This is when someone creates a problem or intensifies a problem, then swoops in as the solution. They position themselves as the one who saves you, helps you, or rescues you. And because they appear to be your source of relief, you begin to associate them with safety. Manipulators love creating chaos and then pretending to fix it. It builds loyalty. It builds dependence. It makes you trust them even though they are the one who caused the issue in the first place. Another powerful dark psychology tactic is isolation. Manipulators know that if you have strong friends, a supportive family, or other connections, you will be harder to control, so they begin cutting you off slowly. Not by demanding it outright, but by planting seeds. They say things like, "That friend does not really support you," or "Your family does not understand you the way I do," or they simply monopolize your time until your connections weaken. They remove the people who could help you see the manipulation clearly. Because once you are isolated, you become vulnerable. You become easier to influence. You become dependent on the manipulator as your primary emotional anchor. Another tactic is inconsistent validation. This one is very similar to the push and pull dynamic, but focuses specifically on approval. A manipulator gives you compliments, sometimes criticizes you sometimes, and withholds praise the rest of the time. You never know where you stand with them. You are always slightly on edge, always trying to earn their approval. This unpredictability keeps you invested. It makes you try harder. It makes you feel like you must prove yourself. And when someone feels they must prove themselves, they are already under psychological control. So how do you recognize these tactics in your own life? Start by noticing how you feel around certain people. Manipulation is not about what someone says. It is about what you feel. If you walk away feeling confused, guilty, inferior, or emotionally unstable, pay attention. If your boundaries erode slowly, pay attention. If you feel addicted to someone's approval, pay attention. Your emotions are your early warning system. Once you see the pattern, you can break the spell. Awareness is the first step. When you recognize manipulation, it loses a large part of its power. After that, the next step is boundaries. Clear, firm boundaries. Saying no without apologizing. Protecting your time, your energy, and your emotions. And most importantly, rebuilding your self-trust so that you stop relying on the manipulator for your sense of reality. Here is the truth that most people never realize. Dark psychology thrives on silence. It thrives on confusion. It thrives on people doubting their own instincts. The moment you trust yourself again, the manipulation begins to collapse. So if you have ever felt like someone was subtly controlling you, or draining you, or confusing you, you are not imagining it. Dark psychology is real, and once you learn the tactics, you can see them from miles away. The world becomes clearer, your relationships become healthier, and you reclaim your power. Because at the end of the day, manipulation can only control you if you do not see it. The moment you recognize it, the moment you name it, you break the illusion. And the more you understand dark psychology, the stronger you become.